We're here 5 days a week trying to help you master your sales, simplify your pricing, and deliver consistent premium level service. Joseph, how are you doing today?
I'm feeling great, man. I was going to say, I mentioned it a little bit earlier. There's a big storm coming to hit New York tomorrow, and I can't help it. It's one of those things where I spent so many years selling generators that the moment we hear any snow, I get like this giddy feeling of being like, oh, power outages. I love them.
Power out.
I'm feeling good.
Right. Yeah. So lots of opportunities abound, right? Storms hit, generators. You happen to be a bit of a generator nut.
It's one of those things where some people, and this is actually going to be a topic that comes up later. Some people say, oh, it's snowing. It's no different than, oh, it's a recession, or, oh, it's fall. There's always something you can think of to say, where's the opportunity in this?
Yeah.
My logic was always, well, you know what? If you know the storm's going to come and you know that people are going to be out, why are you not canvassing those particular areas to say, hey, I know you just lost power yesterday. Wouldn't it be great if you never had to experience that emotional pain ever again? Wouldn't it be great if you never had to worry about throwing your food out or worried about having to use space heaters or plugging things around the house? If only there was a company that could solve those problems. Here's a business card, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah.
And just being able to just walk away from it.
I want to back that up just a second to say one of the things you pointed out is opportunities, right? This is just a solution-based mental model, solutions-based framework. It's the same thing we want from our employees, and it's the same thing, that same skill that is really essential to succeeding in your electrical business. Seeing the problems for what they are, opportunities. And so I don't really see recession. I see redirection. And I see a bunch of people mystified anytime someone mentions recession. We hear it almost daily. Someone says, well, it's not going to sell right now because I can't do this now because. Every time we justify that to our subconscious, what do we think's happening to our actual efforts?
The thing is, you're giving yourself a reason to not swing, or you're already justifying you whiffing. It's like, oh, well, you know, I'm going to try and take a swing at it, but if I miss, I'm not going to beat myself up too much.
Right.
And that's really just a defeatist mentality. You're allowing yourself, if you're going to expect to fail, why are you even stepping up?
Yeah.
Why not genuinely try to knock it out?
Yeah.
Why not even be okay with it as a single? Just go for it.
Here's what I saw in the last recession. Change, really. It's change in industry during the pandemic. I think, honestly, half the people watching this right now probably started their business in 2020. I mean, I keep giving people pats on the back for that and congratulating them, but that was the big shift in industry. There's more market players than ever. Guess what? It's still the same problems that people are dealing with, right? Having a solid plan, taking consistent action on that plan, and making really measured results and measured reactions. And the people that have done that are some of the biggest, most successful, quickest growing companies I've ever seen in my life.
I would agree with you 100% on that. The biggest difference I found with so many of these businesses is I guess there's two kind of mentalities. It's slow, let's batten down the hatches and try to ride it out. And there's the other mentality of, okay, it's slow, let's see how much business we can gobble up. Let's see what things we can pivot to. Let's see where the gaps in the plays are. And between the two choices, they'll both survive. But the one who's willing to pivot and take action and say, where can I grow? Where can I improve? That is the person that's going to get out of the recession. Yeah, they'll still survive, but that one's going to be that much better.
Yeah. Plan, do, check, act, plan, do, check, act, plan, do, check, act, plan, do, check, act. I say that 6 times fast just to help it stick with you. I actually had a first-year electrical teacher that did that to us, but it was about freewheeling diodes. And he came in, there's a slight tangent here, but he came in after break. We're first years, I know nothing. And he's just like, what did he say? Clipping, clamping, arc suppressing, freewheeling diode. There was one more name in there, I don't remember that, but he said that like 10 times really fast, to the extent I'm picturing the wacky
wacky flaming arms of Family Guy. I love that. Yeah.
Okay. All right. I know what a clipping, clamping diode is. Freewheeling diode. I get it. So same with your business though. Plan, do, check, act, plan, do, check, act, plan, do, check, act. Right? As we keep hearing, I hear this all the time in calls, winging it isn't winning it. Would love some help to get an actual process down. How could winging it win it when it's different every time?
It's not going to work. The biggest problem is that if you don't have an eye on the target, you're not able to effectively figure out where you're throwing the ball. It's just not going to work. But realistically, if you're winging it, could you happen to make the pitch work the right way? Could you happen to throw the dart if you were blindfolded? It could hit it. It's no different than pin the tail on the donkey, right? Like it could work, but can you make it happen consistently? And the answer is always going to be no. Because if you don't have a process, once again, you are just winging it.
I'm glad you said that too, because I actually feel that's a worse position. To win by winging it leaves you in an even more confusing position where you're going to inevitably lose everything, because it's really tough to build the foundation once you're already framing the house.
Can I touch on that for a second?
Please do.
Because this actually ties in, you're actually really, really on point there. How many people say, you know what, I'm going to email over my presentation? Where they say, you know what, I need to talk to my wife about this. I need to talk to my husband about this. I need to talk to my partner about this. Can you just email it over? And we've sold a job like that before. Every one of us has sold a job by just sending it out, spray and pray. But it just happens just enough. It's just enough to where we think it could happen, but it's like a 98% chance it's going to fail. But for some reason, we always bet on that 2%. Why is that?
It's easy. Path of least resistance.
No idea why people don't do this.
But it is. It's path of least resistance. We associate making the call and that connection with resistance, actually. There's something they call call reluctance. That's an actual sales term where you guys and us and everyone on the planet tend to fear making that call, imposing on someone's schedule, and asking for something. It's a real problem, call reluctance. So I think that begins to answer the problem. So the email is easier, but the statistics are real, right? Give you guys an example. If you're in this group, did you get our last email? And we don't send we don't send many, by the way, so there probably hasn't been many, but there was one that went out on Valentine's Day 2 weeks ago. We did a Valentine's Day, and I think the open rate, because we tracked that stuff, honestly, was around 14%. Open. Click-through rate, I think out of 400 emails we sent, 7 people clicked. So low averages, right? Same thing, even when you're sending a quote over, even if the numbers are good, are they going to take action?
You know, it actually, I feel like it ties it back to something you said that I thought was actually really, really well said. Where when people lead from the heart without a process, they're going to feel rejected, like on a personal level. So that actually would tie into why people would want to email it over more. Because you know that 98% of the time you're not going to get the job. But you also know that at arm's length distance, 98% of the time you're not going to get rejected either, because they're not even going to reply to it. And then you could say, oh, they might not have seen it. They went with someone else. They wanted to go with someone cheaper. You justify for them why they chose not to use you. And every justification is how you were not the problem.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, it wasn't me. It was this.
Yeah.
And that's where having a process will help, because you've got to be willing to say, am I at all part of this problem? Am I at all something that should be related here? Because if it is, then let me fix me first. Let me control what I can control, instead of let me try to control you and make you do something different. Control me. Let me do my own thing.
Definitely. Definitely. Here's the big realization, tying this back to the main point. Recession is redirection. It's not a real thing for electricians. Guys, we have one of the best jobs on the planet because electron flow is actually increasing, not decreasing. As a service electrician, you actually have more opportunities than any other type of electrician on the planet during any time, because infrastructure keeps going up. And even during recession times where construction does tend to slow, you're in service, or at least a division of it. Service department should be able to float your business, pay your bills. And not only that, minimize your cash flow issues, because I really don't know many that are having big AR accounts.
Well, that's the thing. If you're doing it right and you're tracking your progress and you have a consistent closing ratio and your average ticket is doing well, If you have a consistent process you follow, like the one we're teaching, you shouldn't have cash flow issues because there's only 3 outcomes to the call. Every single call is going to go one of 3 ways. Yes, we've got the job. No, we don't have the job. Or yes, they didn't give it to us now, but we have a date on the calendar for when they'll give us a final decision. That's the only 3 ways a call can go. Someone saying they'll get back to me is a no. They're getting bids, a no. Anything that's either a yes, no, or I've got a date, those are the only 3 I'm willing to accept.
Totally. So right off the cuff even here, let's do a live troubleshooting training.
Sure.
Let's say revenue's low. Seems like people aren't spending money right now. We're not hitting our targets. Revenue is low. Where would that bottleneck be, or where should I start looking?
So the first thing that I'd want to think about is when they say people are not buying. I would first want to say, okay, have you changed the options that you're currently designing? Have you yourself started limiting the options? Or is it something that you've presented the exact same way and people are actively telling you no? So I would want to monitor that.
I want to go back even a step further and say, are we still getting the same volume of leads?
You're going back even further. All right.
Even further, yeah.
Me as a sales trainer going through and looking at that, but yeah, you're right.
Yeah, no, totally. And your answers, I feel, is like next, but so simple. Like, where is the bottleneck? Because a lot of people won't look at this. You just go, revenue is low, and you start to panic, and you're looking at the 30,000 foot view, and everything seems the same, but tickets are low, whatever that means to you in this time. So are we getting the same amount of leads? If yes, okay. Are we getting the same conversions? What are your averages? What have you been hitting? What's your target? Now, are we hitting that?
But
one of those 2
don't even have the list,
right? Yeah, one of those 2 is going to lead to that resultant of how many customers do we have? Well, if we have the same number of leads, we have the same number of conversions, then we have the same average number of customers, then we're just dealing with low tickets. And now I would say we're going back to what you said. All right, now we're back into the tech-facing client infrastructure of the process.
Now, I would say in addition to that, going through the self-diagnostic forms could even help even more with that.
Yeah.
Because now we know, okay, I've got the right amount of leads. Now, when you follow the process form, is it me? Is it something the customer's saying? Or is it me reacting to what the customer's saying?
Yeah.
Am I getting my 8 commitments? What am I doing in this process?
I want to give these guys a bit of a metaphor on this one. Hey, guys, if you're watching this live, go ahead and throw a 1 in the chat if you've ever seen one of those, like a gutter spout with the little water. I'm butchering this. It fills with water and overflows to the next one. Little chain, but off the spout, and it keeps filling and overflows to the next, filling, overflowing to the next. So instead of like a gutter drop, it's like a decorative way to let water come down from. Yeah, Greg knows what I'm talking about. Help me out with the words for this thing, Greg.
Almost like a fountain spout then, right? Because it flows from the gutter and then drops down, hits another point, and then hits another point, almost like a decorative, like.
But it just overflows and runs to the next one, overflows, runs to the next one, overflows till it gets to the ground. So we're getting some 1s, so clearly I've made some sense out of this. If you looked at your business in that way, and the troubleshooting we're doing right now, it's a fountain, Justin says. Gutter chain. Perfect. Thank you, Greg. So if you looked at it that way, and you knew the top one was leads, the next one was conversions, and so the next one is your customers, and then your average ticket price, and the number of transactions they're doing. And look at all those, and just imagine you've got a specific number, a target. And so think of that like volume. Okay, when this one gets to 10 leads this week, we're happy. That's our average. If you look at it that way, it would be very simple to troubleshoot why there's no water out of the bottom, right? All you would do is just look at the bottom and say there's no water. And you'd start one by one looking up the chain and seeing where the water is overflowing and where it's not filling up.
Where you got the leaves packed in it.
If you looked at your business that way, would that be simple for you guys? Throw a 2 if that was a simple way to view it. That's what we call the bottleneck, and it's somewhere. In a traffic scenario, you ever see where there's a bridge in the middle of a highway? right? We've all got that
Yeah.
where 6 lanes come down to 3 or 4. It's a bottleneck. Your business has them too. And a recession's no different. It's just numbers are going to change because activities change in a market. The way people make decisions changes a bit. So recession is redirection. Go ahead.
I didn't mean to interrupt on that. I was going to say there's also another really big opportunity that some people aren't thinking of. Now, I remember in 2020 when everything was going really south for a lot of different people, there were also other companies that were really, really growing. And the reason being is that where everyone else is struggling, this is a great opportunity for you because where are their key players? Where are their apex level people? If they can't keep them employed, what are they going to do? I remember one of the reasons I started, I actually joined a company back in 2011 was that was still during the time of the recession. Remember in 08, 09, like everything was still going bad. There was a company that put a commercial out and said, we have so much work, we need to hire. It was obviously a marketing ploy, but I remember thinking of it, I was like, they're hiring now? I got to check and see what they got going on.
Yeah.
So what's stopping you guys from doing the exact same thing?
Yeah.
You can advertise to your clients that you've got great opportunities while also highlighting and getting the key players to join your team.
Definitely. And that's awesome. And I love that. And it's so much about positioning. So here's the thing, the big point here that we're going to drive home with this recession piece rather, is that giving power to a recession means that you don't have a choice in the matter. It means that you're back to hoping things work out. You can take control of a recession or any matter. You can. And you can react to those by plan, do, check, act, as we talked about, and looking at what's going wrong in the market and how to make it right again. And a big way to deal with that, when money stops moving, electricity doesn't. So what does that mean? It means as a service electrician, there's got to be a way to move money again. What are your financing options? How are you locking in the right things for people to maintain their quality of life while they turtle over their money for everyone else?
I remember, I love financing. I remember the smallest job I ever financed was $342. The thing is that if you don't offer it on every single opportunity, your client won't know that you have it or won't be able to take it. So imagine you're in a recession and people are saying, oh, well, they can't buy now. It's February. It's the slow season anyway, and it's a recession. We're screwed. If you can finance someone for 18 months at 0%, which so many companies now offer, you can tell your customer, I understand that times are hard. And that's why here at Service Up Electrical, we've designed these positions so you don't have to stress about it so much. What you can do is you can take the tax return you're going to get this year and apply it to the balance. You don't have to make any other payments until next February. And you can apply that tax return as well. So that means you can have all this time where your panel's actually still working and you don't have to worry about the lights flickering anymore, but you don't have to worry about where the money's going to come from. If I said I could do that, what would happen then? And now you have the ability of moving projects.
Yeah. Yeah, it's huge. And something else we've talked about before, of course, follow-up is big on this. Again, the biggest takeaway I would say, guys, is not letting yourself program that subconscious and allowing yourself to believe that there are things that you can't control here. There are absolutely things you can control and things you can do to move people and move their decision making and move their money during any time. Because electricity is a necessity. We're required workers. All right. Did we beat that to death?
Pretty sure both of us are holding bats at this point.
Yeah. Okay. So we got another topic, guys, that came in from one of our listeners. As you know, this podcast is also driven from a Facebook group, Electripreneur Secrets, and we've got Justin Goldsboro was asking if we could help him handle a bit of an objection where clients want to, assuming reduce the tab by pitching in and doing some of the work for him. Is that something you've encountered before, Joseph?
Yes, unfortunately it is, but it's definitely something we can help him with. And Justin, I appreciate you asking a great question because if you're thinking it, I'm very certain that a lot of other people are thinking it as well.
So how would you handle this?
So we ran into this a lot when we first started business, when we were dealing with, go figure, dealing with generators. What would end up happening is you'd have someone who would have an offsite generator and they'd say, well, to save money, I'll do the trenching. And then you won't have to worry about it because, electricians are expensive diggers, right? Okay, well, that's not the situation we want to deal with, because what we found out was so many people wouldn't dig a straight line. They'd be like, well, there's a rock in that way, so we'll just go around that. And then we got to do another rock around here. And you'd have like these S-curve trenches. Can you try dropping PVC or rigid into an S-curve? It's not going to work. So what do you normally have to end up doing? You either got to dig it yourself, or you've got to go back to the client and say, listen, you did it wrong. You've got to redig it, and I'm going to come back on the day that you do. Or you're telling me you got to upcharge them. Are any of these situations things that you want to happen?
No. And Lloyd says, or too shallow is another concern. Definitely.
Oh, yeah. I was going to say, someone drops by and they're like, you quote the job in PVC, it's got to be a minimum of 18, and they drop a 6-inch trench. And they're like, well, I mean, rigid goes 6 inches. Why not?
Yeah.
It's like, that doesn't quite work. So what do? We need to explain to the customer that when we do it, it's to enhance the level of service we're providing to them, as well as to reduce the anxiety that they have to experience. So what that might sound like is, Walter, and I use Walter because there's a particular customer in my mind who made that serpentine trench. It was about 50 feet of.
Thanks, Walter.
Thanks, Walter. So what you would want to instead tell this person, other than what I did, is you would want to go to them and be able to say, I understand that you want to make that trench for us, and I want to say thank you. I'm sure the reason why you're doing that is because you want to save money and you're trying to make my job easier. And I can't blame you for wanting to do that. But can I ask you a question?
But
you can already tell.
But
can I ask you a question, right? So what happens in that thing is, now, I know I'm going to call it, when we use the word but, we're negating everything we previously said. So we're talking them up and saying, this is great. I'm sure we're thanking them. We're showing gratitude, but becomes a transition statement. But can I ask you a question? Sure. What's up? Well, if we're digging this trench, let's say day of job, we find that we have to do it differently. Are you going to be on site and available to redig at a moment's notice? Would you be comfortable knowing that if we need to make something different, that we're just going to have to redo it ourselves and charge you even though you already dig it? Are you okay if there's ever an issue, we wouldn't be able to warranty it because we didn't map it out? You're okay with all that, right?
No.
So that's why here at Service of Electrical, what we do is we provide a turnkey experience. So all you have to do is write the check. What we'll do is we're going to map out the location of exactly where it needs to go. We're going to be coming and doing a site review prior, as we physically put spray paint down on the track to understand where the lines are going to be. We're going to be coming and excavating it properly. We're going to be calling dig safe to ensure if there's ever any underground scenarios, it's on us rather than on you. And we're going to be able to do it where, when we're done, instead of just taking the compacted dirt and rocks and throwing it right on top of it, we're going to be coming with topsoil. And we're going to be putting grass seed and seeding and everything on top. Even more so at the end of the season, when it compacts down and settles in the spring, we're going to be coming back because we do a post-job safety inspection. And we'll be evaluating and adding more dirt to make sure it's flush and even with the ground. Now, is it safe to say that you wouldn't mind me doing that for you? Or if you want to even enhance it even further, could you blame me if you wanted to do that for you? What do you think the customer would say?
I love that. And what you've just showed them, you've just given them some visuals, a little bit of imagination as to the work to follow and the problems that could be encountered, which really, they've got it simplified in their minds. Hey, I'm just going to dig the trench and I'm going to save $1,000, $1,500.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Same thing applies with spackling. I mean, how many times do you have the thing of, oh, well, I'll open the wall. Do they ever open the whole wall? Do they ever open enough of it?
They couldn't. No. They couldn't possibly. They have no idea
How
what
they're
talking about.
How would they know? Unless you're going to come by and start spray painting the wall or chalk lining it and saying, cut here, cut this, cut that. But then if you're doing all that, who's actually doing the work?
Right.
Then they get to blame you when they don't do it. Oh, I did what you marked out.
Yeah. Send them an apprenticeship application form while you're at it.
Wouldn't mind doing that. Hey, it's like, hey, if you want to pay me for an apprenticeship, I could take that onto your invoice. No problem.
All right. All right. So I think we hit that one pretty good, Justin. Let us know if that helps you out, brother. Of course, there's always more you can do, but there's always less. What's easy to do is easy not to do. He says you'll be trying this today. Let you know how it goes. Awesome, Justin.
Love it.
Good luck,
Thank
brother.
you so much, Justin. I'm impressed that you're taking the action on it. That's really what's going to separate you. So I love that.
Yeah, definitely. And a big topic last week was action. A big topic always is action, guys. That's why we're here 5 days a week, to get behind the windshield with you and help you take actual actions towards your goals to make real progress that is measurable, right? Because this is attainable for you. We believe that our process works. It's been proven. And so we just want to be here with you those 5 days a week and help you with that. Action items for this one, Joseph.
So if we're going to take action on this, the first thing is I want you to be willing to say, you know what? No, I'm not going to let this recession kick me on my ass. I'm not going to let outside forces determine what is going on in my business. Because at the end of the day, you're at the top of the pyramid. You in your company, all things flow through you and disperse to the rest of your team. So if you yourself are acting like this is something that's going to cripple you, what are your employees seeing? What are your office seeing? What are your customers seeing? It all flows from the top. So the first thing is you need to have the mentality to say, I am going to get through this and I'm going to be able to pivot to make better success in the future. That's the action. That is just a bare minimum action as a mindset thing.
Definitely. I love that. I love that. And I'm going to add to it just a little bit, really focusing on identification of the root cause. That's the equation of life, is cause and effect. And most people live in effect. They're constantly looking at the symptoms and how to treat the symptoms. We need to first identify the cause to have a lasting impact on the effect. Or as one of our mentors, Ryan Holiday, says in his books, the obstacle is the way. You first have to identify what is that big rock that we're got to be chipping away at here. Because as we said earlier, revenue is down is just a little too big and zoomed out to fix. There could be too many possibilities with that. So identifying that problem. All right. Do you have an all-star action in mind?
That I do.
Perfect.
All-star action takes a little bit further. You first need to have the first level, which is I'm willing to have the mentality that this will not defeat me. But the all-star action is, what actions are you taking immediately that is going to help you gain more business? Remember, the company that I ended up going to work for, I left IBM to join. And the thought was because they were advertising saying they had so much work, they needed to hire people. I was willing to leave a very successful career to say, you know what, I got to go to this company. They clearly have their stuff figured out. So the all-star action is, where can you position yourself to not only your clients, but your future Apex employees to say, I am the company that you want to be working for. That could be community outreach events. That could be commercials. That could be door hangers. That could be EDDMs. That could be anything that you're doing. That could even be you going to your supply house and saying, hey, do you know anyone that's looking for work right now? We just have more than we can keep up with. People will be like, you have what? Yeah, tell me, what do you got going on? Like, what do you need? People will be drawn to you because you'll be a mystery. An enigma always needs an answer. Be the answer.
Definitely. Definitely. And that ties perfectly into our positioning workshop, available to our clients and our program, of course. Guys, we do give these little drips away. We are here to help you 5 days a week. Again, thank you for joining us in the Electripreneur podcast. And really looking forward to seeing you again tomorrow and helping you again. Did I miss anything there, Joseph?
Nah, man, you're on fire today.
All right. Cheers, everyone. We'll talk to you again tomorrow.
Take care.